This is the next entry in the 2D Mario library and has received an overwhelmingly positive response among critics and gamers alike. So while I'm a bit disappointed that there isn't much lore to break down here, I decided to make a video discussing the tiny amounts of lore that we do have, what we know about the development story, and some of my own personal thoughts about the game. This one will be a little bit more off the cuff, so let's get started. Also, spoiler warnings for the game. Super Mario Bros. Wonder begins with Mario, Luigi, Peach, and a whole Mushroom Kingdom entourage going on a trip to the Flower Kingdom. They're invited by the ruler of this kingdom, Prince Florian, a wiggler caterpillar-like creature that probably feeds on the heads of his flowery subjects to keep them in line. The Flower Kingdom itself seems to neighbor the Mushroom Kingdom, along with several other kingdoms we've heard about in the past, like the Jewelry Kingdom and Bean Kingdom. So if anyone were to draw a map of Mario's world, I'm sure it would make zero sense. But back to the plot. Prince Florian takes the mushroom matriarch to a platform to show off the Wonder Flower, a mystical item that I still can't fully explain after playing this game in its entirety. But these flowers seem to be a special item to this plant species, and in his attempt to make peace with Peach before she makes the final call to invade his kingdom, Prince Florian presents this to her as an act of goodwill. Okay, that part's a lie, but I'm trying to spice up the story a little bit. Enter Bowser, who grabs this powerful, unprotected item and with it manages to merge himself, his clown car, and Florian's entire castle to become this massive floaty castle Koopa named Castle Bowser, capturing the kingdom's people, who are known as Poplins, in their homes in the process. So at the stage set, Mario and his friends alongside Prince Florian head out into this new kingdom to save its people and stop Bowser's plans. Meanwhile, I think Nabbit just showed up to steal what he can during this adventure. So the plot is simple and you're thrown right into the game, starting off in Pipe Rock Plateau, the first of 6 unique worlds. If you've played any 2D Mario game since Super Mario Bros. 3, the layout will be pretty familiar to you, with an overworld map being your hub to pick your levels. You're free to roam around a little bit and find hidden passages and goodies that will help Mario on his journey, but for the most part, it's par for the course. Now this game boasts having the most playable characters in a mainline Super Mario game ever, with 12 choices at the player's disposal. The majority of the characters only differ in visual aesthetics, with Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, and the Toads having identical playstyles, which may seem disappointing at first, but they did this for a reason I'll get into later. The Yoshis have his Yoshi series moveset implemented, allowing him to eat objects and enemies and perform the flutter jump to give more leeway in platforming for beginners. And then finally there's Nabbit, who I already did a video on, but based on his descriptions, I think Nintendo is leading up to a big reveal where he serves as the main antagonist of their next big game. Okay, I don't actually believe this, but his description is pretty interesting nonetheless. Nabbit isn't an enemy or an ally, really just someone keeping an eye on Mario and his friends. So he's not stealing as much, just stalking Mario right now. Anyway, much like previous titles with Nabbit, a majority of enemies or hazards won't affect him, making him a perfect character for beginners who will never understand the rewards of hard work in life. Okay, that's a joke. I always appreciate how Nintendo manages to balance the difficulty of their games for accessibility. Princess Daisy makes her first playable appearance in a mainline Mario title, unless you count Super Mario Run, though much like the rest of the characters, there's not much context of her being there, so either she's joining Peach on this political visit as an ally from Sarasaland, or she's on a date with Luigi. I'll leave that one up to you guys. Pipe Rock Plateau is the world that introduces the player to the new game mechanics, the first level taking place in this beautiful grassy landscape of the Flower Kingdom. There are 2 key moments in this level, the first being the introduction of a brand new power-up, the Elephant Fruit. As its name suggests, Mario and friends can now transform into elephants, which paved the way for several memes leading up to the release of this game. With this power-up, your character can swing their trunk to defeat enemies or destroy blocks, store water in their trunk to water plants or take out enemies, and they can also dash across large gaps. As for Mario and his friends, they have brand new animations and an improved polished 2D Mario gameplay style, and I really do enjoy this fresh new art style because I think these types of Mario games have been needing it for quite some time. The transition between Mario's walks and runs, the characters slipping into pipes both in their normal and elephant forms, just feels so fluid and satisfying, and gameplay-wise seems to perfect the best qualities of the new Super Mario Bros. Series brought to the table. I'll also elaborate on this later. In the elephant form, you're a force to be reckoned with, and with little resistance in this first level, you push through to find the other major mechanic, the Wonder Flower. Grab one of these in each level and you're in for a psychedelic journey that seems more appropriate for the mushrooms Mario has been eating this whole time. Either way, these flowers activate what's called the Wonder Effect, where the entire stage may shift with a grandiose visual event or transform the player themselves into a brand new form. So in this first level, we'll see pipes moving and all types of background visual effects going on, and it's just visual overload for the player, which I think was pretty awesome the first time that you engage in it. Once you get through this sequence, you're rewarded with a Wonder Seed, which is the main collectible of the game. And finally, you reach the end of the level, and hopefully you grab the top of the flagpole. And Mario will save the Poplin that's waiting for him, who will also reward him with a Wonder Seed. This is the gameplay loop for Wonder in a nutshell, and after this moment, you'll be hopping from level to level, tracking down Wonder Seeds, Wonder Flowers to gain access to more Wonder Seeds, these purple coins called Flower Coins, and the larger collectible version, the 10 Flower Coin. And some of these hiding places are quite ridiculous. The idea for Super Mario Bros. Wonder goes back to the development of Super Mario Maker 2. Takashi Tezuka was producer of the title and wanted to create a game that was completely different from the Super Mario Maker games. You see, back when the Mario Maker games hit the market, there was this idea that spread among fans and journalists that giving players the ability to create their own Mario levels would eliminate the need for another 2D Super Mario game. Or rather, they were wondering how Nintendo would top that if anybody could make a Mario level at this point, which personally I thought was nonsense. Tezuka took these sentiments as a challenge and put together a team to work on the next project, with no deadline given. Shiro Mori, director of New Super Mario Bros. U, would join to be the director of Wonder as well. And they would develop a brand new game engine, finally stepping away from the one established within the New Super Mario Bros. Series, to create a game full of surprises and wonders. Mori states, "When I think back to the first time I played the original Super Mario Bros. Game, I remember feeling that it was full of hidden surprises and wonders. Coins would come out when you hit the blocks, and your body would grow bigger with super mushrooms. Back then, everything was new and packed with unexpected delights. However, now that the Super Mario games have been enjoyed by players for many years, those things have somehow become ordinary. That's why Tezuka-san's goal was to create moments that even modern players would find unexpected and wondrous." The team came up with sticky notes with over 2,000 ideas, and one that truly stuck was building on the mechanic of Mario going through pipes that warped him to another location. How could they enhance this idea to be new, unexpected, and wondrous for players? Well, why not make the stage warp around them into something completely different? This started with making pipes twist and bend and making the stage move itself within their prototype. And shortly after, this concept would evolve into the Wonder Effect, a major transformation of the levels without the player having to go anywhere. So now that they established the Wonder Effect, they could use it as a medium and go back to their 2,000 sticky notes and try to incorporate all the team's ideas into these moments for the final product. This went beyond just visuals though. Sound design would be extremely important, with Koji Kondo heading up this effort. The transformation of the level had to be heard as well. Whenever the Wonder Effect was activated, they'd incorporate more up-tempo background music and add more dynamic sound effects to drive home these drastic changes in the environment. Instead of the analog synthesizer they used for New Super Mario Bros., they'd incorporate the sounds of musical instruments and digital synthesizers, giving them a boatload of new options when it came to audio. As for the characters, there's definitely a lot more animated and richer facial details going on here. The team wanted to be true to Mario's original iconic poses from the older 2D Mario titles, including the jumps with his arms extended and the sudden stop after running. If you compare the two, you'll see a lot of similarities to Super Mario World, for instance. The number of joints and animations, according to the team, more than doubled in comparison to the previous New Super Mario Bros. Titles. One of the major differences here is Mario's face itself. The team had to distort the face of Mario's model to point toward the player to properly display his expressions, while at the same time using the positioning of his body to make it more obvious the direction he's traveling. Kind of cool if you see the model from the front, as it's completely distorted, but from the side you have a much more visually appealing Mario. But what about Elephant Mario? I think this power-up doesn't seem to have much correlation with the theme of the game. Originally, when I saw this, I thought there would be multiple animal power-ups incorporated, but it looks like Elephant Mario came out of necessity for the developers to add 3 specific features in one go. They were looking for a way to make the character's body even bigger, rewarding the player with an easier time in dispatching enemies, collecting coins, and destroying blocks. The other 2 features would be hitting blocks from the side and spraying water. An elephant power-up turned out to be the best medium to check all of these boxes. They also played with the idea of having the elephant form be able to blow up shells with its trunk, which I think would have been awesome to destroy Koopas like this, but the team decided against that. Also, for my research, I still have no idea why they specifically chose the phrase "Wowie Zowie" for the power-up, but this was mainly a sound choice on their part, giving Mario a phrase that was never said before to make the transformation feel different. Let's head back into the game itself, where Mario and his friends must collect the royal seeds in the Flower Kingdom to gain access to Bowser, who refuses to come down from his high. There are 6 total worlds to explore in the Flower Kingdom, along with a little in-between area connecting all of them called Petal Isles. There are quite a few levels within Petal Isles, so I'll consider this its own world, and then of course, there's the special world where your dreams of 100% completion go to die. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. World 2 is the Fluff Puff Peaks, a realm of clouds and ice, which is more or less the theme of the levels themselves. This area is gorgeous, but not as memorable to me since it carries the ice theme we've seen in many Mario games already. World 3 is called Shining Falls, a world of golden platforms and waterfalls. It's P. In Japanese, this world is called Ogon Daki, translating to Golden Waterfalls, which is what most of the translations went with. So I find it funny the American localization went with Shining Falls instead, probably to avoid P jokes like the one I just made earlier. This area is structured a bit differently from the rest, a set of trials the player must complete to be deemed worthy of receiving the royal seed.
Hey yo!
Be deemed worthy of obtaining a royal seed from the master of this world, Master Poplin. World 4 brings Mario back to the desert in Sun-Baked Desert. Yes, more desert levels for Mario. But despite that, the overworld for this realm was pretty fun to explore, with hidden levels and mirages you have to uncover to get all of the Wonder Seeds. World 5 is the Fungi Mines, a dark underground network of mushrooms that Mario and the gang will have to explore to find and rescue a trapped set of Poplin miners. There's a ton of ruins underground within this realm. So do you think that ancient citizens of the Mushroom Kingdom once lived here before being ousted by the invading Poplins? And the whole reason Peach was invited by Prince Florian was to appease her after growing tensions between the two kingdoms due to generational bad blood from that ancient war many years ago? I could do this all day. I'm just a little petty with this game for not giving me much lore to work with here. World 6 is the Deep Magma Bog, a volcanic realm with several different paths to explore as you head deep underground once again to find the royal seed. For some reason, this world was my favorite, even if it does revisit a lot of themes from your typical Mario underground lava levels. I will say that these worlds are packed with creative level design, some utilizing the wonder effect to its full potential. Some of the highlights are when Mario and friends transform into different forms like Balloon Mario, Goomba Mario, and Spike Ball Mario. There are also a few other power-ups featured within the game like the Bubble Flower, which gives the player the ability to suffocate enemies in bubbles and create bubble platforms to jump on too. The Drill Mushroom gives Mario and friends the ability to dig underground and into the ceiling, making traversing some of the trickier underground levels a little bit easier. There's also the Fire Flower, but I'm pretty sure you already know what that one does. I'm a little disappointed there aren't more power-ups, but between the amount of badges that you have, which I'll get to later, and the Wonder Effect, I guess there was more than enough transformations and power-ups to work with here, so I see why they didn't include more. Speaking of level design, many of the levels lean heavily into sound design, incorporating entire musical numbers that have the level dancing and singing to a whole number. If you remember in the new Super Mario Bros. Series where the Koopas and other enemies would do a little jig or a dance on the beat with the soundtrack during the levels, it looks like the team wanted to take that idea and run with it. But the music levels are all fun and games until you get to this special world. Climb the beat, I'm looking at you. One major critique I have for this game is the limited amount of bosses. With the crazy strides this game takes forward with level design and mechanics, it takes backwards with boss fights. Excluding the final boss, there's barely any variety in the boss encounters, and you're limited to fighting Bowser Jr. every so often. It's structured like any other 2D Mario Koopa boss fight that we've had in the past, with you waiting for the window to jump on Bowser Jr. after he's finished his barrage of attacks. And they try to give these encounters some variety, but it still feels very samey and phoned in. The only other alternative is the cannon within the airship levels, which is extremely easy to destroy. In my personal opinion, I think they should have come up with a new set of villains, exclusive to the Flower Kingdom, joining hands with Bowser to take over. Imagine all the creative boss fights they could have come up with if they leaned into the flower, plant, or even an insect theme. But speaking of enemies, I know there's a ton of brand new enemies, but I think I'll cover that in a separate video. Now, one of the better mechanics in this game is the badges, a set of collectibles that can be equipped before starting each level to give your character unique abilities. There are 24 different abilities to choose from, which can greatly diversify your gameplay if you choose. Badges that give you higher, unique jumps, hover abilities, more speed, faster swimming. There's even a grappling vine. I found myself just sticking to the parachute cap most of the time since you can get through all the traditional levels without using a badge. There's specific levels within each world called badge challenges that test your proficiency with the badge before rewarding you with it to use for the rest of the game. And these badges are probably the major reason why unique character abilities were rendered obsolete in this game. Aside from the Yoshis and Nabbit, everyone else starts on equal footing, and these badges serve to provide the player with greater customizability that can be applied to anyone. I think these abilities are super cool, but my one gripe is that there aren't enough levels to really put these badges through the ringer. Except for the final level, which at the recording of this video, I still haven't beaten. But there aren't many opportunities to really challenge yourself with these badges, and I found myself rarely using them and sticking to traditional gameplay most of the time. I understand the devs wanted to give the player the option to choose whether to use the badges or not, but more tests of skill with these badges, like the final level, would have been a nice change of pace for extra levels. But enough about that, let's move on to my favorite part about this game, the talking flower. Even while watching trailers for this game, I could never get used to something on screen that blended in so well that just started talking to me, and in plain English on top of that.
I smell that salt here.
This thing is so jarring that at some points it felt like the folks who made this game were trying to jump scare me with it. This flower isn't acknowledged by anyone, not the enemies, not the heroes, not even Prince Florian, who I assume is its ruler. He just chatters away, hoping just to make a friend. What a sad existence. But after a while, it grew on me, you know? Like, I felt like he was there with me throughout the whole adventure. We took in the fresh air together, we screamed together, we fell into bottomless pits together, and for some reason, this thing occasionally sounds like Morty whenever it's panicking. I really get that sense that they made this thing as a character that will do anything to find a friend. Even the loading screen tip kind of references this. Talking flowers love to talk. They often spend their days waiting for someone to visit them. I kind of feel bad at this point. So the talking flower was a result of a concept proposed by Takashi Tezuka, who wanted the game to somehow provide live commentary on the player's actions. We actually spent 6 months seriously developing live commentary. We tried adding voices to match the player's actions. Even though we'd added various voices, questions like, who's doing this commentary started popping up amongst the team. Something about it just didn't feel right. Even the team was evenly split between those in favor and those against. The default voice was very generic, like a newscaster, but you had the option to switch it to a tsundere commentary. You see, I knew I hated this talking flower. Nintendo, release this tsundere commentary cut, even as paid DLC. I want to see this happen. Either way, we'd get the talking flower instead, which was a compromise between the original concept and the Flower Kingdom setting. The last major implementation was the online multiplayer, where players can play levels with other players around the world in real time. With this feature, the team was aiming for a casual connection between players while they were online, giving people the option of enjoying multiplayer in a variety of ways. And much like the couch co-op option within the game, if you die close by to another player you're playing with in a level, they can touch you to revive you and bring you back in. There's also these really cool, useful standee items you can collect that allow you to revive players if they touch it. And I will say there are some angels out there that put these in strategic locations where you tend to die a lot. If you're one of those people, thank you for your service. Anyway, Mario and friends have obtained all the royal seeds, and it's time to take the fight to Castle Bowser. The final level is called the Final Battle, Bowser's Rage Stage, and the fight with Bowser is nuts. Not that it's difficult, because I found it rather easy, but the aesthetic gives me flashbacks to the DJ Octavio fight from Splatoon 1. It's a whole colorful musical number that Bowser incorporates into his attacks. The platforms Mario is standing on are no different, with the player having to time jumps to the beat of the song to effectively jump and damage Bowser. As the battle goes on, the tempo and the difficulty of the fight become more intense, and personally, I think this is one of the best 2D Mario final bosses out there. Mario strikes the finishing blow and Bowser's high from the Wonder Flower finally wears off. Peace has returned to the Flower Kingdom, and everyone celebrates. And that's it. The game just kind of ends. You have the special world you can go tackle if you didn't during the game, which features more challenging levels, and the final level that I will admit is pretty damn hard. A level where you have to perfect your usage of the abilities with the badges you've collected throughout the game, and maybe I should make a spectacle of this and finish it on stream instead. But aside from that, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of post-game content in comparison to something like Super Mario 3D World. The game's already loaded with characters, but there's no extra characters, and I feel like just completing the special world is pretty much it. But if you want to 100% complete this game, you'll need to track down all the badges, collect all the Wonder Seeds in each level, all the purple 10 coins in each level, and collect or buy every standee, which requires a lot of coins, so make sure you're grabbing those. And most annoyingly, grabbing the top of every single flagpole in every single stage. And no, there's not much reward to 100%ing the game, so if you want bragging rights, go ahead and knock yourself out. Personally, I love this game, and all the glowing reviews were well deserved, but I'd give it a solid 8. I think the new engine that they're using is so smooth and fluid, and is a great rubric for future 2D Mario titles. All the new mechanics like badges and the Wonder effect are the highlights of the game, but I couldn't help but feel like Nintendo could have leaned more into the Flower Kingdom theme they had going for them. This was an opportunity to give us a very different environment for Mario and the gang, but this world seems kind of more like an extension of the Mushroom Kingdom, with very samey themes like grassland, ice, desert, and lava. And what baffles me the most is that the team came up with a ton of different new enemy types specifically for this game, but just gave us Bowser and Bowser Jr. to fight as bosses, which seems like a complete waste. Don't get me wrong, I love Bowser, and sure, keep his psychedelic form as the final boss of this game, but we're in a brand new kingdom. Why not use the setting to your advantage and have a brand new set of mini bosses? I think the reason I like the Wonder effect so much is because that's when the levels truly feel different from what we've gotten in the past. So while I truly enjoyed this game, I hope whatever title follows this one up builds more on the new experiences and wonder that were introduced in this title. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and here's hoping you all learned something along the way. I will see you next time. Be safe. The Prophet has spoken.